Welcome to 20th Century Music and Arts. This is going to be my first episode in my remastered version of Thrash Metal and 80s Phenomenon. This series was hands down my most popular series in terms of getting views. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add video clips and re-record my voice so it sounds better and that everyone can enjoy it more. Now, please watch this awesome intro that was created by my friend Burn Power. Thank you.
Okay, how long has the band been together as Metallica?
Well, since we started.
Which was what? October 81?
Yeah.
The first Metallica.
The first Metallica.
Okay. Who are your favorite artists or your main influences? Let's start with you.
Oh, I don't know. There's all kinds of shit. I can't even start to think about it.
Angel Witch, Faye, Venom, Motorhead,
Rush,
Diamond Head,
Black Sabbath, Diamond Head.
ZZ Top. What?
You want to say to everybody out there?
Metal up your ass!
Okay, thank you. This is Donna Davis, and this is Metallica.
The fast and furious sound of thrash metal was a unique musical culture that came from the 1980s. It would begin in the early 80s and would reach its peak in the early years of the 90s, before it was put in decline by the rise of grunge and alternative music. Thrash metal gave an outlet for angry kids who wanted their music to be loud and ugly, but still require musicianship to play. Long hair, leather jackets, tight jeans, and high-top sneakers was the uniform of the thrash metal fan. So in today's episode, we are going to explore the early history of the musical genre. In the early 70s, there were a number of examples of heavy rock bands who wrote songs where the guitar was still distorted, but the pace was much faster than standard rock songs. Example were Deep Purple's Speed King, Queen's Stone Cold Crazy, and two songs by the mighty Black Sabbath, Children of the Grave and Symptom of the Universe. Symptom of the Universe possessed many of the traits that would be found in thrash metal in the 80s. However, over the horizon, a musical revolution was happening in the UK that actually declared war on standard rock. Punk rock was ugly and the speed and tempo of the music was quick-paced. In fact, it made a lot of hard rock seem tame by comparison.
She was a girl from Birmingham. She just had an abortion. I got a feeling inside of me. It's kind of strange, like a stormy sea. I don't know why. I guess these things have gotta be. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm not who I want to be.
However, there would end up being a reaction from the hard rock world. Bands would adopt the speed of punk, but keep the virtuoso of the rock music. This movement was called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal, and included bands such as Tigers of Pantang, Angel Witch, Saxon, Diamond Head, and of course, Iron Maiden. These bands adopted a heavy metal uniform that included denim, leather, and spiked bracelets. From this movement, 4 bands would push the musical tempos and heaviness: Motorhead, Raven, Tank, and Venom. Motorhead, formed by former Hawkwind member Lemmy Kilmister, were a powerful rock trio that played a fast speed and included double bass drums played by Phil Taylor. Raven's debut, Rockin' Till You Drop, had a sound that was loud and fast and quite fierce. Tank's album, Filth Hounds of Hades, was produced by Motorhead's Fast Eddie Clarke and was appreciated by both punks and metal fans. And Newcastle's Venom created something completely different. Playing with the same ferocity of Motorhead, they sang songs that were satanic and frightening. Their sound would have a huge influence across Europe and North America, inspired Sweden's Bathory and Switzerland's Hellhammer. Venom and their offspring would soon be known as black metal, named after the second album by Venom. But another name was being used for all these groups, and that was speed metal. Bands across the world that were inspired by the new wave of British heavy metal and decided to try and increase the speed. Bands like Germany's Accept were given the label speed metal. But it was the country of Canada that really led the way in the speed metal genre. 2 bands from Canada would define speed metal and in turn influence the thrash metal genre: Anvil and Exciter. Anvil from Toronto produced a powerful sound that was based around the vocals and guitar of Steve Lips Kudlow and the drums of Rob Reiner. The band had some success in 1982 with their album Metal on Metal. Exciter from Ottawa played an intense, quick-charging form of metal on their 1983 debut album, Heavy Metal Maniac. Now, one of the problems with genre definitions is where the borders of the categories actually lie. The differences between speed metal and thrash metal can be hard to recognize. Often people use the terms thrash metal and speed metal interchangeably. Others have argued that speed metal evolved into thrash metal. But if we are talking about thrash metal, of course we need to talk about Metallica. However, before we do that, we actually need to talk about punk again. More specifically, American hardcore punk. When punk came from the UK to American shores, it would go underground and eventually become hardcore punk. Some metal fans were checking out Black Flag, the Circle Jerks, the Dead Kennedys, the Misfits, Minor Threat, the bands The Faith and Void, who actually shared an EP together, MDC, and the Bad Brains.
Gallant, fight the cold, rise above, we're gonna rise above. Coup d'etat, coup d'etat.
Now, in turn, this influence would make its way back to Britain and would create the ferocious UK 82 bands such as The Exploited, Charge GBH, and Discharge. Discharge took the heaviness of Motorhead and combined it with a post-apocalyptic hardcore punk. Their 1982 album, See Nothing, Hear Nothing, Say Nothing, was probably the heaviest album that had ever been produced. Many metal fans across North America and Europe were huge fans of this metallic-tinged hardcore British punk. Danish-born Lars Ulrich moved to Los Angeles to pursue a tennis career, but that soon fizzled out. He had been playing drums since age 9 after being taken to a Deep Purple concert by his dad. He soon became friends with future Metal Blade founder Brian Slagel, because Slagel was also a fan of the new wave of British heavy metal. He put an advertisement in a local newspaper, The Recycler. It read, "Drummer looking for other metal musicians to jam with Tigers of Pantang, Diamond Head, and Iron Maiden." James Hetfield, who was in a band called Leather Charm, answered the ad. Lars and James were soon joined by guitarist Dave Mustaine and bassist Rob McGovney. Slagel would release their track Hit the Lights on the Metal Massacre Volume 1. Soon McGovney was replaced by Cliff Burton, who insisted they relocate to San Francisco, a city where they found an audience that was much more appreciative of their sound. Their fan base grew as a result of the move, along with the tape trading of their demos and, of course, their intense live performances. They would tour New York, where another up-and-coming thrash metal band opened for them named Anthrax. However, Mustaine's substance abuse issues, along with his sometimes violent outbursts, made him difficult to work with. In May of 1983, Mustaine was out, and Kirk Hammett from another up-and-coming heavy band called Exodus was brought in as a replacement. In July 1983, Metallica released their debut album, Kill 'Em All. Thrash metal had its first true album. Mustaine was left with a bitter taste in his mouth as he had written many of the songs in the album. He went back to LA and decided to plot his revenge. A scene was emerging in San Francisco, and one of the key bands in that scene was Exodus. After Kirk Hammett left for Metallica, guitarist Gary Holt emerged as the main songwriter. The band had a sound that merged new wave of British heavy metal with hardcore punk. Their frontman, Paul Bailoff, was a psychotic party animal who was very good at firing up the crowd. Brutal slam dancing became a norm at Exodus shows and went along well with the lyrics about violent acts. They recorded their debut album, Bonded by Blood, originally titled A Lesson in Violence, in 1984, but it would not be released until 1985 due to a number of difficulties, including problems with the album's artwork. This album is a thrash classic and became very influential on the genre, and many wonder what kind of impact they could have had if it was released in 1984. But a late release would not be their only issue. Bailoff's partying lifestyle, like Mustaine's, was out of control, and after the tour for Bonded by Blood, Bailoff was replaced by Steve Zetro Souza, who would go on to record numerous albums with the band and filled Bailoff's shoes effectively. But California was not the only place where thrash metal was thriving. A band named Anthrax was formed by Scott Ian and Dan Lilker in 1981. They released their debut album, Fistful of Metal, with vocalist Neil Turbin, lead guitarist Danny Spitz, rhythm guitarist Scott Ian, bassist Dan Lilker, and drummer Charlie Benante in January 1984. After the tour for A Fistful of Metal, Lilker was replaced by Frank Bello, Benante's nephew, and Lilker went on to form Nuclear Assault. Journalist Eddie Trunk pressured Scott Ian, who had become the band's lyricist, that they needed a new vocalist. Out went Neil Turbin and in came Joey Belladonna. Joey Belladonna's high-pitched vocals gave Anthrax a more melodic approach than many other thrash bands. With Benante in charge of writing the music and Ian the lyrics, the band grew their following and had great success with 1985's Spreading the Disease and 1987's Among the Living. Metallica had left for San Francisco because they did not feel they were getting much of a warm reception, and they were not wrong. Los Angeles was giving birth to the glam metal scene. The focus of these bands was the image and creating music that was more commercial at the time. Bands like Rat, Motley Crue, who in the early days actually did have quite a hard edge, Dokken, and Quiet Riot were playing places like the Whiskey a Go-Go to a large female audience. But every action has a reaction. In 1981, Chilean-born Tom Araya, Jeff Hanneman, Kerry King, and Cuban-born Dave Lombardo began playing covers of Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, and Venom. The band decided to adopt a satanic image and began to wear black eyeliner to make themselves look more evil. This appearance was in contrast to the image of the hair metal bands, though there is footage of Tom Araya singing Looks That Kill by Motley Crue. With money borrowed from King's father and Araya's savings he had made as a respiratory therapist, they recorded their debut album, Show No Mercy, in November 1983. What made Slayer different from the other thrash bands was the evil subject matter and imagery in their music. But they played at breakneck speeds with aggressive intention. They would follow up their debut with Haunting the Chapel, an EP in 1984, and Hell Awaits, the album, in 1985. Slayer was the most extreme band, and the heaviness of other thrash bands was often compared to them.
Frantic minds are terrified, life was in the grave. Silent death rides high above the wings of revelation. Black and hot as the fire. Searching now.
Heading back to Los Angeles, Mustaine was determined to get revenge on Metallica by putting together an even greater band. He started to play with neighbor Dave Ellison, who had moved from Minnesota and played bass. Mustaine decided on the name Megadeth for his new project. After going through numerous lineup changes, including for a short time Slayer's Kerry King, they added guitarist Chris Poland and drummer Gar Samuelson, with Mustaine handling vocals and guitar while Ellison was on the bass. They were given $8,000 to record their debut album, Killing Is My Business and My Business Is Good. Unfortunately, $4,000 of the budget was spent on drugs and alcohol, and the band fired the producer and ended up producing it themselves. While their production was a little on the low budget side, Mustaine and company created a ferocious album that was brutal and started using more complex time signatures that would become what the band would be known for. In 1984, Metallica went to Ulrich's home country of Denmark to record their second album, Ride the Lightning, in the Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen with producer Flemming Rasmussen. Their production was a serious step up from Kill 'Em All, and so was their songwriting. There were complex time changes in the music, acoustic intros, and even a morbid ballad called Fade to Black. Album was successful enough that Metallica was signed to a multi-year album deal with Elektra Records, a major label. Thrash was starting to hit the big time and was soon going to be a global phenomenon. And that's what we're going to look at in the next couple of episodes. Thank you for watching 20th Century Music and Arts. Please remember to like, share, and comment who is your favorite thrash metal band of all time. Thank you for watching.